Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
What is
By the
up?
time we're recording this, we found out our MVP for this season was Nikola Jokic for the third time. I hear you, Diego. I bet on Luca back when he got
Real.
hot, and then there's some consideration for Shea, but it ends up being Nikola Jokic. Um, while we're at it, what do you think of the pick? Obviously, you can see the reaction on your face.
Like, obviously, at this point, it makes sense. Still would have liked Luca to get it, but yeah, I mean, before this series, he was kind of like undisputed best player in the world, so I can't see much else to much else to go against it. So yeah, it's all good. But good for him though. I mean, three MVPs. I don't. Yeah. Oh, if it would have been three straight last year, it would have been like a record, something that only Larry Bird had done before. But yeah, he's getting up there in MVPs, so we'll see. Hopefully now this Timberwolves series is changing some of the some of the perspective on that.
Yeah, I always feel weird when they announce it at this point of the season. It's like kind of like I don't I don't think we really know who the MVP is until you get to like the conference finals.
Well,
In my
that's the
mind.
issue, right? It's a
I
it's a
feel like
regular season
I feel like
award.
it's way too early. And like when people don't play like enough games, we've had that issue. And like also
What
when you're
happened to
trying to
me?
figure out like who is the most valuable player out of like 10 guys who could have been considered for the award, like it's tough. It's definitely tough. But props
No,
to
it's tough.
Joker. He's the linchpin of that team. But right now, we'll talk about like their struggles against the Timberwolves. But for now, let's start with a fresh game off our mind from yesterday. Mavs at Thunder looked very exciting
Jeez,
for 3 quarters, and
it
then at
was.
the end, you're just like, I hate this team so much. They should sit Luca for a game. I got all the text reactions out of you, man. So,
God,
how do you summarize this game?
I
If you
summarize
have
it
to summarize it in
by
one word, what would it be?
one word: painful for me. It's just like it was a close game, but I think the biggest frustrating part for me is just the fact that the Oklahoma City Thunder, the team everyone is getting had been getting on all season for not having any size, not having anyone, including us. We've said that before, having no one over like 6'8" besides Chet Holmgren, out rebounding the Mavs and getting so many offensive rebounds. And credit to the Thunder, they came out and they wanted it, and yeah, they had a bit more rest, but they so many times there was one play where I don't like the Mavs get the rebound, like they hold on the rebound, but then Aaron Wiggins swats it out of PJ Washington's hands, gets another three, misses. We get another rebound. Same guy Aaron Wiggins takes it out of a Mavericks hands. Ball's going everywhere, and then I don't know if it was Shea or Lou Dort. They get it back and bang a three on us. Like, what is that, man? Like, I get I get like Luca's injured and whatnot, but we can't this can't be happening. Like so and it's tough. The Thunder are really deep. Playing like literally Cason Wallace is a rookie getting like playoff minutes is wild, and they just have so much energy, a lot of length, which I think is huge nowadays, and I just think it was a bad showing for the Mavs. Biggest thing for me is Luca just non-existent. I mean, you already knew it was non-existent on defense, but on offense, it was just a lot of step back threes that made the Thunder's lives really easy. I mean, it's easy to defend when Luka's just gonna not let anyone else touch the ball, step back three brick, and then he's not gonna really defend in transition. So I'm being really negative because I was really mad, but he's also injured. You gotta take that into account. But it just really hurt. I'm someone that like, even if we lose, I don't want to lose, or I'm fine with losing as long as we try hard. And we just at times it didn't look like it, and it really made me angry. So that was the biggest thing for me: hustle and effort.
Yeah, I mean, the one positive sign, Daniel Gafford played
Yeah,
out of his mind. He
he
had
played
what, like
very well.
4 block, like he was like competing for Chet for like how who could have the most blocks in that game. If you bet
Hmm.
Daniel Gafford 4 blocks and Chet like 5, like
Yeah.
congratulations. What like I could not have seen that coming. Like he played out of his mind. But I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with the depth. I think that depth is definitely something that even the
Hmm.
Mavs can't match right now from the Thunder because they seems like they're just rolling out like hockey lines in basketball, and then they're just
Yeah.
like frustrating the Mavs in terms of depth. And like people forget how obnoxious that OKC crowd was. Like back when
Mm-hmm.
they had Westbrook and Durant competing with the Warriors and up 3-1, like that crowd was one of the most hostile environments to play in. And once you get that crowd going with blocks, 3-point shots, steals, run and transition, like that's you do not want the Thunder you do not want to face the Thunder when they're in transition.
Yeah.
And that was a problem for the Mavs. Luke Dort, I cannot say enough about him. And then that's like a rough like draw for Luca. First, you get frustrated by having Terrence Mann in the previous series, and now you have
Mm-hmm.
to deal with Luke Dort. Like OKC in general did a good job of eliminating Irving and Doncic. I think they combined for like 12 assists the whole game, and then
Yeah, it
like they
was not a
started like
good
six
game.
of 16 in the first half, and it was really
Mm-hmm.
like the other guys. It was like Derek Jones Jr. It was
Yeah.
Daniel Gafford. It was um, like a number of guys who like stepped in. I think PJ Washington had a couple like nice moments in the beginning too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they had to. It was really like the Mavs had to be a balanced attack where they ideally would like Irving to hit 30 points, Doncic to hit 30 points, and like control that way.
Yeah.
Because like once Kyrie gets going, he's like a flamethrower. He cannot stop. And then um, there's a couple of possessions where like Chet Holmgren would block Kyrie, where it's like Kyrie would know how to navigate that, and it's just like
Mm-hmm.
you just don't see that happening. Like a lot of like the Mavs play was uncharacteristic, especially like when the fourth quarter approached itself. So definitely something I took away from that game as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For Derek Jones Jr., I think he had a monster game. That was really fun. He had a reasonable game. PJ Washington, I think, obviously he didn't have a great game, but one shot that I think is really important for him to get in rhythm is that floater off the drive. They're definitely not guarding him the way they're guarding Luca and Kyrie. If he can get past, like if he can get a pass in the corner, attack a closeout floater. He hit a floater over Chet, and I was like, oh, that's kind of spicy, interesting, and could be something good for next game. And uh, I think a big thing is just at times I was just like, what are we doing on defense at one point? Uh, I don't know if we were playing a zone. Like the commentator said a box and one, and I was like, all right. And then at one point it was just like uh, a Thunder player gets in the corner, and Josh Green is the only guy. Like the extra guy, for some reason he has to make like a 30-foot closeout of the shooter, and obviously he's not making that closeout at all, and it's just a wide open
He's
three.
not
And
getting their time.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was a painful thing to watch, and it's just I don't know. I think one thing that was kind of frustrating me as well is just like Luca was kind of just like this might be too I don't know. I might be asking too much, but he's just like laughing on the bench after getting subbed out after the game's kind of over. I'm like, bro, like we're down 1-0, and I know I could be getting too hysterical about it, but like I need some urge. I don't know. I'm just too invested in
I
this.
think it
Like,
was more the fact that it became like a 20-point game, like
mm-hmm.
very
Yeah,
quickly when it was like suddenly a tight game. And it's just like, whoa,
yeah,
when did this happen? Like we weren't expecting the spread to be like suddenly expanded like this. So,
mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I, s- I mean, Holmgren had his footprints all over this game, and like
Yeah,
I think he was going coming into this game. He's averaging like 2.8 blocks per game. You just don't see that. You you don't
mm-hmm.
he's again another forward that's making his impact on the game in a different way, and I think it's here to stay. Like
Oh yeah,
if the stars are aligning for a Thunder and Wolves like conference championship,
it's gonna be
think
good.
about like based off like rim protector. I think the rim protector is coming back to the league like in a big
Mm-hmm.
way. Like we've had
Yeah,
this era with like Golden State and then like the rise of the 3-point
small
shooting
ball.
where like you want your five to really be a four and like stretch the court and be an active
Mm-hmm.
rebounder. Now I think it's going back to like, oh, there's ways to play with a rim protector now, and that's a scary sight because
Yeah, I think.
if you look at a lot of these teams remaining, the Knicks got one primary star pretty much, and
Yeah.
a lot of great role players. The Thunder got well. You can argue they have 3 or 4 all stars. You could do that, or you could say they have one extraordinary star and like 7 like amazing role players.
Mm-hmm.
But they primarily go through Shea.
Yeah,
Jalen Williams is coming. Chet is
it's
coming.
getting
But
there.
like this season, it's been like there's a reason Shea has been like in the MVP discussion.
Mhm.
Nuggets play for Jokic most of the time, and then Jamal Murray
Yeah.
steps his game up in the playoffs. Um, you're seeing all the, and then obviously with the Timberwolves, you got Ant, like, and then
Yeah.
like you're seeing all these teams with like one primary star, and not a lot of the teams like the Suns, the Lakers, like the Nets when they had KD, Harden, and Kyrie together. You're not
Mhm.
seeing that like across the league, right? Like even the Pacers, they're in the they're in the semifinals with like Tyrese Halliburton pretty much, and like even though Siakam's been the better point, like the bucket getter, like for
Yeah.
most of the series so far. Like I think we're seeing a return to like the one dominant star and the importance of role players to know what to do
Mhm.
come back to the league. And for me, that's a refreshing part to see this season.
Yeah. I'd say as we saw in 2015, the evolution of just being of Steph Curry basically telling us or showing us that three is more than two, right? I think the next evolution is just length and athleticism paired with those skills. That Steph Curry doing that basically told us, oh, if you can just learn how to shoot threes well enough and shoot it at a well enough clip, it's way more valuable than a two. And now, especially with the Timberwolves, it's sort of showing if you can, and the Nuggets as well, if you could have a team with enough size and length that can also shoot threes, you're kind of unstoppable against teams who bring out guys like Kyrie, who's 6'3". You put say if the Mavs somehow they still can. If they play the Timberwolves, I mean, Kyrie's getting guarded by Nikhil Alexander Walker, by
Or even in this series, he's getting guarded by Shea. Like people
yeah,
forget,
who's
like
six
Shea's been
six.
averaging 2 steals, like pretty much a little over
Mm-hmm.
2 steals a
He's
game.
very very
Like
long.
he's the one point. He's got the longest wingspan of a guard, I think, like a starting guard right now. And like
Yeah.
um, it's like I've heard the same. I was actually watching the Game podcast today,
Oh yeah.
and they were talking about the Wolves specifically because they got Jaden McDaniels,
Mm-hmm.
they got Nikhil Alexander Walker, they got Ant,
Jeez, man. Yeah.
Rudy Gobert, all these guys with like insanely long wingspan, and Kyle Anderson who started for them last game.
Slow mo. Yeah.
Like it's there's a changing of the guard and like how you play defense and how you feed off each other and whatnot. And even the Celtics are this way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like it's definitely I think we're seeing like a league shift to more like, oh, we want guys with length necessarily, not necessarily like height and like shooting from the four spot. Yes, that helps sometimes, but
Yeah.
like it's still like there's a 4-on-3 game that you want to get into, and then there's also like how do we like build around a rim protector? But like the length is probably the biggest thing um that allows you to really make your box and ones effective if you go to that. Because
Yeah.
even on the map side, they tried to go box and one on like Shea Gildas
It's
Alexander. It
tough.
was pretty effective. They were
Yeah.
parts of the first half. It was pretty effective. Like Shea was turning the ball over and stuff. He went off to a slow start, but I think just those couple of things where you have like the primary star like Brunson, you can seemingly pencil him in for 40 a night now,
Yeah.
which is insane. Like the last 5 games, he's been scoring 40 points, and then but just the one star and then the change of lens. I think that those are the two things I'm noticing as I'm watching games like these.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. Definitely something interesting to keep an eye on. I think we can.
So Mavs in 5, am I right?
I hope so. I don't know. I'm trying not to think about it as much as possible, and just wait till Friday or tomorrow and hope for the best. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Um, Game coming up at 8 p.m. today,
Mm-hmm.
which is in 7 minutes. Is the Knicks and the Pacers.
Yeah.
What a great game, game one. Um, some questionable calls towards the end of that game, but
Mm-hmm.
Knicks are up 1-0 right now. I think this is anybody's series, to be honest. I'm looking at this objectively. Like, you should think based on seeding and how the Knicks play, like that they'll be able to knock off the Pacers, but I don't think so. I really think the Pacers have a chance because of how explosive there are on offense
Mm-hmm.
and like how many weapons they have at their disposal where it's not like sticking to one guy. They're
Yeah.
constantly moving the ball around. And like when that happens, it kind of doesn't matter how great you are at individual defense. Like, because if the ball's moving that quick, like you don't have time to like get into your sets and like stop an offensive concept. Like there's a lot to think about here. But what have you made so far of this series?
I didn't get to really watch too much of the game. I saw some analysis after by what I think it's like Steve Jones Jr. He's a kid. He's on the Dunker Spot on Twitter. He usually puts a thread about of like what he sees in the game. But I think a big thing is just the Knicks won this game by really playing to the Pacers style of running the ball. I mean, it was a 121-117 game. That's not usually the Knicks way to play, and it's kind of
Yeah,
scary. Like,
that is true.
why would you feed into that when you're playing guys 48 minutes, Josh Hart especially, and like I don't necessarily like the Knicks style of play where it's just Brunson like dribbling the air of the ball and then kind of figuring out from there. I like more the Pacers style of play of kind of like being more egalitarian, passing the ball. But the Pacers barely lost this game due to also some like interesting calls while while Tyrese Halliburton isn't having a great game at all. Tyrese Halliburton like only shooting one shot inside of the paint, like inside the 3-point line to be more specific. Like if he can come out and be the player we saw, even like 75% of the player we saw at the beginning of the season, like he could it could be difficult for the Knicks, and especially without they lost Mitchell Robinson 2 nights ago, and that's not gonna help. I mean, now you're down to Isaiah Hardenstein and Precious Achua, who good
Hartenstein's
players
been really
nonetheless.
good though. He's been
Yeah.
really good. That little hook shot he has, like 10 feet away from the basket,
hmm
like that is like as gimme as like Jalen Brunson controlling the middle of the floor and shooting his step back jumper.
Yeah, and just the way the Knicks offensive rebound too is just so interesting. I mean, I saw one play where I don't know who shot it. Josh Hart, he doesn't rebound. Like he doesn't just get the rebound. That's not what they do sometimes. He just one arm, he's like holding on, he just boom, like slaps it out to the 3-point line where I think like Dante or OG Anunoby was waiting. They pass it around a little bit and get back to OG for a three, and it's just wild that it's like that's how they play, and I want the Knicks to win. Like I said, I don't love the style of play, but I think just the way MSG is rocking, I think they have a lot going for them. But they I think they need to kind of lock in exactly what they want to do and not feed into what the Pacers do and try to frustrate them. I mean, if you don't let them play that quick game, I don't know what they can do because they really aren't the best defensive team in the world. And also getting destroyed in bench points. I think it was like 43 to like 3 or 6 or something like that. Now obviously it makes sense when you have guys playing over 45 minutes a game. You don't have a lot of bench players, so
But like TJ McConnell looked at times like
TJ McConnell, I love
he
TJ
looked like
McConnell.
he was the best point guard like
Mhm.
for the Pacers. Like he was so
Yeah.
aggressive and like I think he had like 15 or 16 points
Oh
in
yeah.
the previous game. Like he's been like a Knicks killer essentially. And like
Yeah.
I was hoping to hit on the assist on my bet, but like he's been looking pretty spy and nice. Like I would probably play him and Halliburton at the same time and see like what kind of spacing you get. I wouldn't mind it. Because
Yeah.
like I'm not really a fan of Nemhart. Not really. Like I like Neesmith better, to be honest, when I watched him
No,
play. But
definitely.
Nemhart just like I don't want to say this, but like he gives me like Dylan Brooks vibes. Like
Really.
sometimes like he can distract himself like off
Mhm.
the court, but like he'll be streaky with a couple of threes and like a couple defensive stops, but like he's just like he's just a rotation guy to me. Like
Oh
he
yeah.
doesn't stand like he's solid. He's a solid player, but like I mean, like I'd be comfortable subbing in TJ McConnell for
Yeah.
him like at times in this game because whenever TJ McConnell comes in, it's like the same thing I see when Peyton Pritchard steps up. He just
Mm.
gives you a different dynamic you have to worry about. So like that's that's something I would consider doing. And like Miles Turner, like lean into him shooting the three because he shoots it pretty effectively.
Yeah.
Get him going and because like whenever he's like humming, usually the offense is doing nice and then help like we need to put an APB out for Siakam because he started out hot against the Bucks and
Mhm.
he's just not been as effective at least to start the series. Like we need like at times he's showing up, but like I need that 30-point Siakam to come out, especially when
Yeah.
Halliburton's not scoring like the way he used to.
Yeah, definitely. I love TJ McConnell just because I don't know why he's just such a great point like
He's an energizer, buddy, dude.
He's
I'm
an
telling you.
energizer bunny. He's just such a good like poor man's like CP3, just like a point guard. Like
Yeah.
he's just a point guard. There's nothing else to say about it. And
Yeah.
he comes off the bench. He played his average minutes are so low because he was really at the end of the bench at the beginning of the year. And I really enjoy the way he plays. He plays with a lot of energy. He never makes bad decisions, and he's just kind of like a little dude, kind of scurrying around there, and it's great. So it's a
Like
little
you're not gonna make him your starting point guard, but like if you can get him as your sixth man, like
yeah,
you're
like
that's
great backup
ideal
point
for
guard.
him. Like
Mhm.
imagine him on the Warriors, dude. Like
Yeah.
put him in the starting lineup with Steph,
Yeah, I mean
like and then like all of a sudden you got Kuminga, like Draymond Green and like TJ McConnell, like just swinging the ball around. That makes that team even more dangerous. Like, oh my goodness,
mhm.
watch out. Like
Yeah.
he brings that kind of effect where like he just
He just
elevates
creates.
everybody around him. And
Mhm.
like it doesn't matter who they are. So like um definitely lean into Obi Toppin because did you see that between the legs dunk he
Yeah.
had in
Yeah.
transition? That was I can't believe he pulled that off in the playoff game. Like he can get the crowd dying down a little bit, which is funny because he started out on the Knicks,
Mhm. A
and
little
now
bit
he's
of beef.
playing like in their home stadium soon. So like it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
And one
Uh,
quick side note: Reggie Miller is at this game today,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's something I did see when I was watching the broadcast.
No, there's a lot of they just showed a picture of him with Spike Lee, and Spike Lee has these like posters of what are they? They're like newspaper articles or whatever, like from when they had their whole beef or whatever in the 90s. And yeah, no, I really love that because I mean, like at one point I didn't know about that rivalry. I know a lot of younger fans might have no idea that it was a rivalry, and I love other people knowing about this because there's so much context to basketball history, and I feel like a lot of people kind of there's a whole trend recently like we're so done with the 90s or the 80s with like some clips of Michael Jordan coming out where he couldn't dribble with his left or couldn't score or whatever, and it's like appropriate. It was different back then, but that brought us here, and I think it's worth to at least know a little bit about that history and how things interact. A little, yeah,
I mean, I don't think we can go any longer too without bringing attention to like the, the just amount of calls that went away from
yeah.
the Pacers. Like
Hmm.
Neesmith getting called for a kick ball,
That was
like
crazy. I
when
saw it today, and that was kind of a heinous call. Like
and then Hart selling. I mean, not Hart. DiVincenzo selling
yeah,
like the
the
flop on the pick. Like I get it. Like it's the right call. It's the right call for sure. But I'm like, if that's what basketball is going to come to now when the game's decided on that, it's like, I
hmm
mean, like if Halliburton misses a shot, he misses a shot. But like at least give the opportunity to see what happens, you know. But like I can't critique it too much because that was again, Russ made the right call here. We got to give credit where credit's
yeah,
due. But I'm just like anybody can act like that. Like
hmm
you're not assessing a person's skill like is like as far as like the refereeing like on whether they fouled or not. And that's just like I just hate how exaggerated the players make the calls now. Like
yeah,
even when it's a correct call, like to exaggerate to that extent, and like also the react like the world is gonna end when a foul gets called on you. Like
hmm
that's those are the two pet peeves. But I'm like to see that magnified at the end of the game, like really soured on me. But nonetheless, it was a really good game.
I think it's a big issue right now in the playoffs. It's just there's so much
Yeah.
behind these calls that, and it's like the last thing we should be thinking about. We should
It's the
just,
inconsistency because then we're
hmm
gonna talk about it later, but like Murray throwing the heating pad and like
yeah,
Malone having a fit, like, and they're not getting technical fouls at all, and like as a person who loves watching the Nuggets, I'm like, yeah, you don't want to be doing that on the court because somebody could have slipped on there. Like,
hmm
you want to make sure you have sportsmanship, like even when you get
yeah,
beat like that, and it's like you're not calling that, but you're calling a moving screen where it has an implication on whether the Pacers are able to steal a game on the road. Like that was probably their best opportunity. We'll see about tonight, but I'm like, that's like when the Knicks win the series in like 6 or 7. Like that's the one thing you're gonna look at. You
yeah,
can't overlook that. You know.
yeah. No, definitely. I just think especially the 2 minute report, just doesn't mean anything anymore. It's just out there just to say, oh, we got it wrong.
And the
Not gonna
fact that
do
we can't
anything.
review, why can't we review calls? Why can't we do that? Like,
Hmm
why is it like called a certain way and then it's like non-reviewable? Like
Yeah.
it's like
Very
if it's
confusing.
that blatant, like you need to have somebody to veto it. Like you can't just be like, oh, we just call it this way. We can't change it. Sorry.
Yeah. It's just.
Like, come on, come on. There's so much riding on this. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. But again, it's a game. We enjoy watching the playoffs for sure. It's just like these are things that would make it more enjoyable. Celtics and the Cavs. Pretty competitive first half, and then once again, like the
Yeah.
Mavs and the Thunder game, just looked away from the Cavs itself. Um, I was in the first half. I saw what worried me last week when I was talking about the Celtics not having Kristaps Porzingis.
Hmm.
Um, I saw Mobley dominating. I saw the bigs of the Cavs like really get up there and like get those rebounds and like
Hmm.
it was getting me worried. And then Luke Cornett played out of his mind. Horford
Yeah.
played out of his mind, and then I'm like, who am I kidding? Derek White 7 threes? Are you kidding me? Like looked like he was
Hmm.
barely breaking a sweat hitting them. And the one thing that irked me is I put the bet on House to hit 3 threes and not on Derek
Yeah.
White to hit seven. I'm like, are you kidding me? Okay, but like
Tough
other
one.
than that, like Jalen Brown was like absolutely cooking everybody in that first half. Like and Jason Tatum didn't have the best of nights, but like he
Hmm.
didn't have to because like Derek White and Jalen Brown playing out of their mind. Like great game, great
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. I think. Well, I didn't watch this game too closely, sadly, but I think the biggest thing is just. I mean, the Celtics still won by 20. What was it, like 25? And it didn't even look like they played that well at all.
Yeah.
And the Cavs didn't play well at all either. But it just feels like the Cavs, even if they have like a 50-point night from Donovan Mitchell, which they had in the Orlando series, it feels like their other guys just aren't able to step up at all or able to hit shots that they need to. I mean, for a part there, I think it was the second quarter or the third quarter where they're just like, yeah, the Cavs haven't made a point, any kind of point, no field goals, no free throws, nothing in 3 minutes
But
since
they
we
were
started.
within 4 or 5, but it's just like it was just
Hmm.
confusing me. I'm like, how are they in this game? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think they were, and then because of that, they started to lose ground. But it was just, it's, I, it just feels tough. It just feels like the Cavs have nothing offensively, and they can't do anything. And it's gonna be tough to defend. Like, yeah, you have Isaac Okoro, that's your best defender. And then who else after that? Like, who's guarding Jason Tatum? And even then,
So,
I could think Okoro was, but still, like Jason Tatum had a terrible game, and they still win by 25. So it's
yeah.
very interesting. I think,
He won like 7 of 19, didn't hit any of his threes, and
yeah.
and Celtics still won. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's looking like a 5 game series, to be
Hmm.
honest. That's the way it's looking at. I think the one guy that I'm extremely frustrated with is Darius Garland.
Yeah.
Like
He
he has
didn't really do
so much
much.
potential on the offensive end, but he's not developed defensively. And
Well,
like
yeah.
he hasn't developed other parts of his game when it's not on off the dribble.
Hmm.
And that's what worries me with him. Because all of his game is like he has to like throw guys off like on the dribble, and it's like he can't play within the structure of the offense. And I think he's the one letting down like the backcourt between like Mitchell,
No,
like because
definitely.
right now Mitchell's carrying. I think he had like
Yeah.
50 points to close that game against the Magic, and then like 39 and like this
Hmm.
one, and it's like can't keep
He's
relying on
doing
him, man.
everything.
He's dealing with a knee as well, and like Mobley had an insane game like yesterday, but like it's not enough. They don't have like it's the one team where they have one clear superstar, but like they haven't figured out the other like ancillary pieces. So like
Hmm.
it's different. It's like that's when it's like you were hoping Darius Garland would take a step up this season.
Yeah.
Um, like
And he
ever
did.
since they made that move, and it's like I don't think it's large enough. I don't think it's a large enough step. Like it's I feel like they have to upgrade at the two position to like have a chance when you're looking at the Celtics, even the Knicks maybe. Like that's Cavs are in a tough situation right now. They got to figure out answers outside of Mitchell.
Yep.
So
I think in terms of Mitchell and Garland, it's sort of a similar issue we've been talking about with Allen and Mobley. It's just you have two guys that do the same thing, and especially in the backcourt, that's sort of the same problem the Mavs have, where yeah, Luka and Kyrie are really good offensively, but then you have to play when you have to play against Shea, you have to play against Jalen Williams on the same team as your say like one and two best players. you might have one guy to guard one of them, but the other guy, another guard ish player, what are you gonna do? And I think that's the biggest thing for the Cavs is just I mean, Darius Garland's great, but he's 6'1". Like who is he guarding? Who is he gonna guard? Even against Kyrie's
He's
down
the
two
weakest
inches.
link on that team every time. And
Yeah.
like hopefully like if Levert plays out of his mind for like 3 games this season, they might have a chance because like he's one guy, he's like another guy we didn't talk about, where
Uh-huh.
like he has all the potential in the world with his wingspan and
Mhm.
like how he gets to the rim. And people forget how good he was like on the Nets. Like
No, yeah, he was good.
he's the reason why like we thought the Cavs were going to be a top 2 seed is because of the effective backcourt they had.
Yeah.
Um, like top to bottom, their defense was really good at the time, and like they had a bunch of guys that can get their own shot. But like now, it's like they seemingly regressed, and it's like they suddenly can't find their own shot. And this is not just a
Mhm.
Celtics thing. Like we get it, Celtics defense has been amazing, but like the
Oh yeah.
Magic also have one of the best defenses in the NBA, and they just couldn't figure out how to get their own shots. Like
Mhm.
it's can't be Mitchell all the time. You have to. They also
Someone
have
else
to
has
have
to
a
make
system that can
shots.
complement. Yeah, it's tough. Like can't rely on Max Juice, like because they'll show up one game and then he won't show up like the next two, and it's just like okay, like
Mhm.
you have to scheme him up to get him shots, and like if the scheme's not good enough, it's very difficult. It's very
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah, I agree with you. It looks like Celtics in five. You know, there needs to be some game where the Celtics kind of, as we've said, kind of like beat themselves and lose one game. I could see that happening, but yeah, it's just rough for the Cavs. I mean, they do what they've wanted to do the whole season, move on to the second round, and then you have to face a juggernaut, and the Cavs are not in any way, shape, or form prepared for that. I don't think
I'm trying to be
even if they
nice. I
had,
think they could get swept. They honestly could get swept, but I'm
yeah,
giving them one just in case they can win one on their home floor.
yeah,
Okay. I think this might be the biggest surprise to me
yeah,
so far in the semifinals. The Nuggets, defending champions, down 0-2 the Timberwolves, especially in game two without Gobert.
hmm
Wow, what a defensive performance.
what,
Like they just
yeah,
took over in the first and second quarter and never looked back in game two.
hmm
And wow, like you had Jamal Murray frustrated the entire game,
yeah,
like couldn't get himself going. Like he's throwing a fit. Coach is throwing a fit. Like there were some calls at the time. I'm like, okay, yeah, I see it, but like you have like Ant like trash talking like as he's driving. Like
pointing at Reggie Jackson,
yeah, and wow, that was filthy. That was absolutely filthy.
yeah,
Like I'm sorry. Like I haven't been a fan of Reggie Jackson since he was on the Clippers and almost blew a game against the Mavs. Like one
oh
time I was
yeah,
watching. So I've never been a fan of watching because like sometimes I feel like he just makes stupid decisions with the ball in his hands. But like that was like absolute filthy move. Um,
hmm
and then a cat like instigating him. It's like like instigating the situation. Like oh mama, there goes that man. Like
yeah,
they're just like Nas Reed in game one hitting 5 threes. Like were you expecting
hmm
that? Like
no,
the Bulls are just they're like the Thunder. They got depth. They, we were
long,
talking about their wingspan, like starting. Let's just start Kyle Anderson instead of Gobert. And it's
hmm
like, oh, they're not going to have the size to deal with Jokic. Oh no, Jokic is struggling. He is
yeah,
struggling, and it's like, I, I, I'm genuinely, I'm probably shocked to be honest, because I didn't see the Nuggets struggling like this against the Bulls. I have to give the Bulls all the credit in the world. They've
yeah,
they built the type of team you ideally want. Like they have a like unstoppable one can get 40 a night if he wanted to, Anthony Edwards.
yeah,
And then you have a really, really good secondary option with Towns.
hmm
To everybody thought number one pick was probably going to be
yeah,
or like linchpin. He's not that guy. He's a great 1B. He's a really great 1B. And then you have a third superstar on Gobert when he's healthy, and they figured out how to play around him with his rim protecting ability. And to his credit, we talked about this in the past couple
yeah,
weeks. He's gotten a lot better guarding on the perimeter as well when he's
hmm
playing. And then your other guys, Jaden McDaniels improved, Keelan Alexander Walker improved. Like
yeah,
they're playing around these guys, and it's just and they got the veteran and Mike Conley, like
hmm
absolutely like Anthony Edwards is the leader now, but like to have
yeah,
that veteran presence you can rely on in a game, like hit 3 threes in the first game, you needed that. Like yeah, I got nothing but like all sorts of compliments to throw at the Wolves right now. And their
Mm.
head coach is not even like walking around. Like he's just
Yeah,
like
he's
if
sitting
their
there
interim head
behind the
coach is
bench.
like, yeah, he's like sitting like talking to his team, yelling at his team, and like his assistant head coach is like, wow, Wolves are resilient. They're amazing. Like it's, I think this is more about like better Wolves than Nuggets.
No, yeah, and I think the biggest thing here is just it feels really weird to say this, but the Timberwolves were able to solve a problem that no one has been able to solve for I think like over a year. Is what do you do when Jokic has the ball and you try to double team him, but then there is Aaron Gordon for a lob and a dunk, and they did it by putting usually Cat on Jokic. That's what they did in game one, and then Gobert on Gordon, and that worked perfectly. And there was one play that's been like got gone viral, I guess, where like it's just Jokic with Gordon, and then Gobert's in between them. Gobert kind of stunts at Jokic, sees he's gonna throw up the lob, and then he's long enough to get back and deflect it, and it's beautiful. And now like that was a huge part of their offense, and now they can't do that. Like the Lakers had fits with that. They tried to do something with that by putting Rui on him, but Rui's too small. Cat just has enough weight to really do that and really stop him there. So I think it's really interesting. And even more surprising yesterday or on Monday when they played, and I mean, no Gobert, the kind of linchpin defensively, and then you have Naz Reid guarding now the three-time MVP Jokic and giving him fits. And that big thing is just the pressure they're giving. They're giving them three-quarter courts pressure, not letting them walk up into their actions. And that's something the Lakers couldn't do because first,
Oh, Brunson took a nasty shot.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh, first they're what's it called? First, the Lakers might not be as deep. Second, even if they were as deep or are as deep, they have nowhere close to the length. Your smallest guys are like Nikhil Alexander Walker, and yeah, Mike Conley. He's small, but he's got an intelligence that none of those Lakers guys have. So I think they're playing just a beautiful brand of basketball. And Anthony Edwards, I mean, in that game one, no one could guard him. KCP, who has been kind of an all-world defender in these playoffs and last playoffs, just he's nothing. He's nothing to Ant, and it's just crazy. It's
And
crazy.
you
And
don't want to put Gordon on him either
no,
because
Gordon,
now
he got
you open up
cooked.
like Towns and
Yeah.
Gobert, like then you put Jokic in a 2-on-1 situation. And I think the biggest thing is like when I watch people play defense on Jokic, it's like if he's at the 3-point line, they're like giving up. They're like because like
Mhm.
you notice like Jokic, he has like a hitch or like a second to like think about if he wants to shoot the three and like even if there's like a guy like somewhat there, like they'll be like arm's length away, but they're not going to be able to block him because he's really
Yeah,
tall.
I mean, he's
And
tall and
like,
he kinda has, like, a two-motion shot behind his head, like,
yeah,
it's
like so
unblockable.
it's he's taking like warm up threes versus 3-point shots most of the time, but not against these Wolves. Like whether it's Reed or like Towns, like you see them making an exerted effort to like
To
put
be
their
in his
hand out
grill.
there, let them know they're there, like be aggressive, like on that, and like
Mhm.
even when Jokic is posting up, like Jokic is a very patient player, and I love to play that way personally. It's good because it allows you not to rush into actions or whatnot.
Yeah.
But like it's a classic, like the way they play their defense is classic, where like as soon as he dribbles to get into like what he wants to do, the Wolves are on him. They're like collapsing on him,
Yeah.
and it's unbelievable to see because like when he dribbles, like you kind of know he's like trying to go for that classic hook shot or like spin,
Mhm.
like off the backboard and whatnot. But he can't even get to that because the Wolves just are collapsing and saying, "No, you can't come any further." They got that wingspan to do it,
Mhm.
and I don't know why I haven't seen other teams play him that way. And then even with Murray and going back to Jokic too, like the Wolves have at least like 3 or 4 guys that they can throw at either of them.
Yeah.
And they can change up the defensive looks. So like what you see is different. Like offensively, you're trying to get into concepts and stuff. And they just have the personnel that other teams don't to be able to even do that. Like
Mhm.
they're just like playing with how they play. They're like, oh, we'll just put Nikhil Alexander Walker one possession. Next time, okay, Jem McDaniels, put him in for
Yeah.
3 minutes, and then like, oh, let's put Ann on him. Like just to not like because as an offensive player, you kind of know a defensive player's tendencies. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
here's my matchup. Probably going to be a matchup with this guy, maybe this other guy. Like, here's what I can get away with, and then like based off like some of my moves, just set them up and like put them in certain spots so I can drive or like shoot a three based on like where the defender is on the court.
Hmm.
Like I can get a rhythm for how they play defense. Jamal Murray can't do that
Yeah.
because each of these guys play with a different style,
Hmm.
and I think that's affecting how he's like trying to get good looks. And to a certain extent, Jokic is that same way. But like each of these defenders have their own flavor of playing their way, so they have the creativity to do that. But then within their defensive scheme, they play connected as well. They play like the Nuggets on the defensive end of
Yeah.
like how the Nuggets do on the offensive end, well organized. And I mean, it's been a while since I see a defense play like that.
No, it's a defensive masterclass. I think one last like sort of uh like not analytical, but sort of like strategic point is that what the Wolves are also doing is they're not letting on like a go not a go bear Murray Jokic pick and roll. They're not letting Jokic get that ball. They're selling out to not let Jokic get a pass in because Jokic on the short roll is so scary because now everyone's in rotation. Now they have just Jamal Murray having to stand there being like, "Oh man, that didn't work. What do we do now?" And I think that was the biggest thing is probably frustrating for everyone is just it seemed like the Nuggets, no matter what happened, they could just do their offense anytime and it would work because of how we've talked about before how
We
smooth it
we talked
is.
about it last year. Like nobody could stop that action. Like at the
Mhm.
top of the key.
Yeah, and even then, sort of handoffs and getting everyone involved. But the fact of the matter was, if Jokic didn't have the ball, then it's a lot easier to only have whoever's holding the ball have it instead of Jokic. And so I think it was a big thing, especially in game one, that they were able to take advantage of with that strategy and dominate. So well, not dominate that game, but more the second game. But props to Timberwolves playing really well. I love Naz Reid. Naz Reid's just a demon. And yeah, that's it.
He's gonna get a payday.
I
He
know. I
really
was
is
saying
gonna get
that.
a
I was
payday.
saying that on
Like
Monday watching the game, telling my roommate, I was like, I don't know when Naz Reid's contract is up. He's either staying up for the Wolves for a lot of money or
there's
going
no
somewhere else
way
for even
other teams
more
are gonna let
money.
him stay on the Timberwolves roster with the way he's played this year. Like,
Yeah.
and that's a credit to him. That's a credit. He 100% deserves it. Um, like they have like three of like the top 15 bigs on the same team,
Yeah.
and like because of the way Reed has developed, and that's
Mhm.
so it's like wow. Like the Wolves have a lot of luxury positions, but allow them to play the style that they do.
Mhm.
And to be honest, I should have paid close attention to this team. I really should because like there was a lot of moving. There was also like the cat injury, like with the
Yeah.
meniscus tear, and
Last
it's just
year
like we don't
or
know how he's
this
gonna
year.
turn out. Like yeah, like but there are all systems go, and like honestly, I I think they could beat the Thunder if
Oh
they
yeah,
matched up with them.
I
Like
think so.
I know the Thunder are seemingly doing well against the Mavs bigs right now,
Mhm.
and then
But
like
the
they did well against Valanciunas somehow, but like I, the Wolves just look like a different beast. They
mhm.
they really really do.
I'd also say the Mavs bigs, Jonas Valanciunas, they're a lot more one dimensional than Cat and Naz Reid. Like both of those
Yeah,
guys can shoot, can dribble, can drive, and
I say PJ Washington to a lesser extent, but yeah,
yeah.
your
But
your
I
point's
mean,
valid.
yeah. I mean, I saw way too much last night. Daniel Gafford trying to like drive or like go 1-2 at one of those
Oh,
wings,
he
and it
missed
was
so many
painful. It
bunnies.
was
It was
painful to
crazy.
watch, and it's just
Yeah.
like that's not your game, man. You're not like maybe next year if you work on it, that'll be your game, but it's not your game right now. And
Mhm.
that's what Nasri and Cat can do. They could drive and they're really dynamic in that way that I think sets them apart. So yeah, I'm excited to see that series if it happens. So at least if the Mavs lose, there's something basketball wise that'll be exciting for me.
Yeah. Um, on all four great series, maybe not the Celtics and the Cavs, but like
Yeah.
we have a lot to look forward to. Right now, the Knicks are up by 5 with 5 to go in the first, and
Yep.
it's looking like a great game. TJ McConnell is already in, so that's looks to be a good sign.
Yeah.
But thank you guys so much for watching. We are not going to have a football podcast this week as nothing really to talk about with the draft coming up, and then of course
Yeah.
John had a conflict this week. So we're going to plan out what the offseason looks like on the football side. So it's largely going to be NBA for now as these playoffs are ramping up very, very
Makes sense.
quickly. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, follow us on Instagram at our username at
Yes, sir.
amon.a.mission right there. Um, oh, wow. Ooh, cool
Yeah.
parts. Okay.
Oh, that
Wow.
was the one I just reacted to.
Yeah. I was like, I'm a little bit behind Diego. So when I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, that'll be bad. But anyway, on our YouTube, you can follow us at Amon a Mission. That's 3 words there.
Hmm.
That's where we post all these podcast videos, probably where you're watching it from. Um, yeah, like Diego gave you that stare because he wants you to subscribe right now. Give a like and give a comment.
Yeah, do
But
it. Let's go.
yep, with that, take it easy, guys, and enjoy your weekend.
Yep. See ya.